What's better to focus on? Your target or your crosshair? We asked over 500 players, from casuals to ranked demons and pro players, all the way to VCT winners and aim gods. And the answers we got are pretty interesting. Making this video was actually a challenge. I mean, I thought this was going to be an easy question, but from what you're going to see, it confused the hell out of me. But I really wanted to get to the bottom of this. So here's what I'll do. First, I will collect data from pro players. Then I'll create dual mimicking scenarios to do some control testing. I will also use an eye tracker to see what I naturally focus on and look for any scientific research that supports either notion. I'll also talk to literal aim gods to break this down. But why cover this topic in the first place? Well, you see, attention focus in FPS games is a big thing. And I feel like this is one of those common FPS questions that doesn't really have any data-backed answers. And I wanted to cover this topic because I was streaming some games on our Discord channel the other day, and funny enough, this happened.
Oh! By the way, Prince, do you focus more on your crosshair or on the target in the gunfight?
Crosshair? Oh wait, I don't know, I'm not sure actually. His question really made me think. I was literally testing between focusing on the crosshair and the target throughout the match. But by the end of the game, I still couldn't tell which one was better. And that's when the obsession kicked in. I had to know which one was better. I went ahead and got this eye tracker. How it works is simple. It sits below my monitor and has 3 sensors on it. I play a game, then I review the recordings. And the tracker will be able to show what I focused on throughout the game. Let me show you how this works in game. You can see this bubble here? This indicates where I'm looking at. If I quickly look over to this target right here, then the bubble should follow along. I've already recorded a game with this thing, so all I have to do now is just go through the recordings and write down where my focus was during duels. Okay, so out of all my contact-to-contact duels, I mainly focused on the crosshair. There were a few instances where my focus shifted over to the target, but mainly it's crosshair. Now I focus on the crosshair, but what do most players focus on? I'm mainly interested in data from pros, high-ranking players, and aim trainer players. For that, I'm going to need to reach out to as many of them as possible. I will leave each of them a message on X or Discord and wait for their answers. I will ask them what they mainly focus on during gunfights. I will also make sure to specify my question only during contact-to-contact duels. I will also host a poll to see what most of you focus on. While we wait, I'm gonna go grab my lab coat and do some control testing. I want to test both focus types and scenarios and see which one I score better in. It's a bit tedious to test this in-game. Given the amount of data we would need, I would probably have to play at least 100 games. Also, doing this in-game can present a whole set of problems since duels happen differently and I can't really compare them one-to-one. Instead, I will do this in Oblivity, which is our own aim trainer. I will create gunfight mimicking scenarios to do my control testing in. This way, I can get a lot more data on duels more efficiently. Oblivity will give me a score after each round. This makes it a lot easier to compare. I will create exactly 3 scenarios and run each of them 100 times. 50 runs with crosshair focus and 50 runs with target focus. And to minimize as many impacting variables as possible, I'll be alternating between the two with each run. The first scenario will mimic a long-range gunfight duel on Lotus. In this scenario, I'll need to flick, correct, and switch targets. I'll also have to react to a jet or race engaging me from top pillar. The second scenario is a mid-range duel scenario on B site. You'll have an enemy peeking from either top, close, left, or right. The enemy will strafe randomly at you. And here is the catch. We'll have only 1 bullet to shoot. The third scenario will mimic a close-range gunfight on Lotus C site. Think about playing retake here. You come from water, and there is an enemy peeking pillar, 1 main, and 1 close CT. They peek you one by one. Once I complete a single one, I'll write down the data in a sheet. I will be looking mainly at the overall score and accuracy. Okay, let's get to it. I'll start with Lotus distance. Alright, 50 runs done so far, and what I can already tell, I think it's impossible for me to just lock in on a crosshair and just blurring out the target, because I don't really think you can aim this way. So what I'm trying to do is put the majority of my focus on the crosshair and soft focus on the target. Okay, just finished all my 100 runs on the first scenario and something really interesting happened. So when I focused on the target and ignored the crosshair, my aim just felt way more intuitive. I don't know, it's just like I trusted my mechanics. I just felt like every movement was automatic. We have 2 more scenarios to go though, so let's not waste any more time. Get back to it. Okay, we're finally done and my arm is completely gone. Here are the results, let's do some quick maths. Let's start with Lotus midrange. I was able to achieve a high score of 140 focusing on the crosshair. Insane, right? Well, not really. Focusing on the crosshair, I scored an average of 87.50. With target focus, it was 87.78. So the target focus beats it in about 0.32%, which is literally nothing. And this was the case in other scenarios too. The difference was so relatively minor. On Lotus distance, focusing on the target was only about 2.79% better. On Lotus close range, crosshair focus was about 1.56% better. We just got a lot of responses from the pros. Let's see what they have to say. Naxit says target. Navi Hero says target. Crosshair, target, don't know. Minubu says I'll just shoot. Okay, so I got about 40 answers so far from the pro players. I put them all in a sheet here. At the moment, we got about 63% saying target and 37% saying crosshair. Okay, I'm just confused right now. The answers are close. The data shows that one isn't better than the other. But why did target focus feel more intuitive, more natural, and more automatic? I mean, there has to be something there. I scouted for research studies to see if I could find something. I searched everywhere online. I couldn't find FPS-related studies that directly talk about this topic, but I came across this interesting study that I want to show you. Quick disclaimer, it's important to keep in mind that the conclusion I draw from this study is my personal opinion and it isn't really science-backed. But of course I'll take a lot of measures to validate my opinion. In a study by Professor Gabriel Wolf, she explores the automaticity of motor control during external versus internal focus. This may be too nerdy for you, but I'll simplify the study for you, so just bear with me. First, what is automaticity, and in this context? Automaticity simply means performing a skill without having to think deeply about every step. For example, you've been driving a car for years. You don't consciously think about how to press the pedals or turn the wheel. You just do it. It's automatic. Professor Wolf and her colleagues conducted experiments that involved tasks like hitting a target with a golf club. They split participants into groups and told them to focus in two different ways. Internal focus, which is to pay attention to how your body moves, for example, feel your muscles or think about your hands. External focus, which is to pay attention to the environmental effect of your movement, for example, keeping a mark on the cup. Those who focused externally did better during practice and showed a better learning curve than those who focused internally. The reason was because focusing externally frees up your brain from micromanaging movements. This allows your system to work more automatically. Now, this would explain why my aim felt more intuitive during my testing when I was focusing on the target. You may ask, why is the crosshair more like the internal focus? Let's take the golf analogy. Think of the golf club, the tool in your hand, as your crosshair. If you over-monitor that tool, constantly paying attention to how you hold it or how you're going to swing it, you may end up overwhelming your brain with information. Similarly with the crosshair, you'll always find yourself thinking, am I at head level? Am I holding wide enough? Which are good questions, but not when you're actively and constantly thinking about them, and especially not during live gunfights. If you focus externally, in this example the target, your body will fine-tune mechanics automatically, hence making you more intuitive and reactive. It's basically a trust and react in the moment type of thing. As I said earlier, this study isn't FPS related, and maybe drawing a correlation like this is a reach, since there are many variables at play here. So what now? To validate my correlation, I reached out to some high-ranked players that I personally know and asked them to do the same Oblivity test that I did. 10 players got access to the control testing with their own personal sheets to fill in the results after each run. They were also told not to switch settings or aim styles during the run. I also let them know that if they slip up on any of the runs, they have to start all over again. And lo and behold, all 10 players scored significantly higher on target focus. If I sum up their data and compare the average, the players scored about 15% higher across all three scenarios. Now, this is interesting. This means that I was the only one who scored well on both target focus and crosshair focus. Maybe I'm just one of a kind. Well, all jokes aside, I at least have more data from players now. This makes me feel better, but I'm not fully satisfied yet. So I reached out to the best aimer in the world, Matty, who was breaking records in the Red Bull aiming tournament. Here is what he told me. If dealing with close, mid-range or large to medium-sized targets, or really 90% of the situations, look at the target and read its movements. If dealing with very small or far-away targets, the remaining 10% of situations, then look at the crosshair. Basically, if there is ever a point where the target appears so small that visually confirming whether or not you hit it will involve ascertaining with precision where it's relative to the center of your screen, then look at your crosshair. This may be too technical for some of you, no shade, but to sum it up, it's target focus mainly and crosshair situationally. Okay, so far target is winning, and this is further confirmed in a call I had with Noted, who's another prominent aimer. Here's what he had to say.
Always focus on the targets because the crosshair is second nature. You should be able to play any game or at least train. Let's say go to a TDM, in Valorant, no crosshair. trust me, you're gonna be able to get kills, right? Because it is second nature. At the end of the day, you know the size of your monitor, you know where's the center of your monitor, so you're always gonna be in a game where the environment is changing like multiple times. Out of a sudden, someone's gonna peek to the balcony in essence, right, on 3. Out of a sudden, someone is peeking mid. If you don't pay attention to the target, how are you gonna do the calculations in your brain to react to the target? Always focus on the targets. That's the short answer.
Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you so much. Thank you. Okay, so Noted thinks it's not only better, but it's vital that you focus on a target. Because just like the research, your aiming should be automatic. All this now answers the main point of the video. And I can now confidently say that in contact-to-contact duels, target focus is the clear winner. But if this is the case, then why did TENS say this?
Focus on crosshair or targets? You normally want to focus on your crosshair. Use your peripheral vision to see targets.
And out of all the pros and high-ranked players that I asked earlier, why did 36% of them tell me crosshair? One thing that bothered me was the lack of confidence in some of their responses. So I decided to reach out to them again just to confirm. And actually, many of the pros reconsidered and retracted their initial answers. When they thought about it, a lot of them switched their answers over to target. Falcon Mary, for example, who's previously told us she focuses mainly on the crosshair, also now said it's situational, similar to Matty's answer. After verifying the pros' answers, here's where we stand. Out of all the pros, a whopping 85% prefer target focus over crosshair focus. That's a 22% jump from our initial 63% result. If we also add the few extra responses we just got from other high-ranked players in, and also add Noted's and Matty's answers to the mix, the final pro results are, Marnus, give me a drum roll please, 93% focus on target, while only 7% stick to crosshair focus. What about the poll we posted earlier though? Well, you guys showed up big. We got an incredible 623 votes in total. And guess what? 80% of you focus on the target, just like the pros. 20% of you, crazy as you may be, focus on the crosshair. All this now tells me one thing. You see, this question is flawed to begin with. The correct question isn't if it's better to focus on your target or your crosshair. The question should be which one of them deserves the majority of your focus. Here is Ye verifying this in one of his streams.
It's kind of like a soft focus, so like I'm not like hard focused on my crosshair, but like I know where my crosshair is, but I'm not like locked into it, you know. I still have like my side vision, if that makes sense.
So hard focus on the target and soft focus on your crosshair. Hope this answers the question. I would like to give a special shout out to all the players that helped us in the testing with their time and answers. Thank you.